Thank you. So globally, the public sector is undergoing massive change. New administrations, some with increased fiscal spending, all of you with constrained budgets, tax changes that we're all aware of, but more importantly, more scrutiny than ever before. Public procurement and finance officials are keen to implement programs that tackle the challenges, managing public spending sector, automate processes, increase efficiency, and of course, we've heard many times today already, increase transparency. Of course, the person who lives in Silicon Valley is still using paper here. Now more than ever before, there is a need for visibility and accountability into how government funds are spent, just as there is in any corporation. Public procurement officials at the national and local level and the suppliers that they work with feel the impact of this, as do the recipients of all public services. Many public entities are taking the opportunity to begin initiatives that will provide the necessary level of control, efficiency, and visibility. They must do this in adherence with changing policies, regulations, and directives while continuing to maintain supplier relationships, keep processes and operations going, and effectively managing risk. Whoops. I don't think so, but try it again. Nope. Due to technical difficulties in the back. Keep going? All right. I'll keep reading and you get, I'm sorry? All right. But public sector organizations are finally embracing changes needed to increase value and address these challenges. Topping the list of why now is digitization. By embracing the same technologies delivering value for the private sector peers in the public sector. Digitization is a no-brainer as it supports all stakeholder groups. Government leaders, you want to maintain financial control, full visibility across agencies. I promise you I didn't add this word, but agile, as we've heard already a few times, and flexible processes. You never know when requirements are going to change and come down. For the public, they want improved quality and value. They want to see transparency, and they want to see progress towards modernization. And suppliers, they're just as important. They want to make it easier to do business with you. They want greater transparency as well. They want information access. They want cost savings on their end in both time and in money. And they want improved collaboration to improve outcomes. So I'm here to talk about two major customers of ours. Ivalua works with cities, states, provinces, and federal agencies around the world. We've been working in North America and in Europe over the past number of years with organizations such as the state of Arizona, the city of New York, Canada's Shared Services Organization, British Columbia's Lotto Corporation, and many others. They've broken down many of the challenges and are making a real difference for their constituents. The first one I'm going to talk about is the city of New York. I don't know if we have the slides ready to go. I will keep talking. All right. New York City has been a leader in a range of public initiatives. New Yorkers are notoriously demanding customers. Anybody here from New York or have lived there before? We've got a couple. You know that you're demanding of both your private sector providers, but also your government. That said, driving innovation and improvements is no easy task. But the need is so great and the expectation so high because the sheer number of people impacted by those policies. I have a few stats that, with my really bad eyesight, I will try to read here versus show you on the screen. But New York's got, all right, we're getting closer here. All right, there we go. 8.5 million people. More importantly, New York has 2 million people under the age of 24. It's a very telling statistic. That's 24% of all New Yorkers are millennials. They're digital natives. They have grown up with technology. Their expectations of technology, from their daily lives to their work lives to what they do 24/7, is an expectation that they live with. They clearly expect similar levels of efficiency in government processes that they have been used to their entire lives. Whoops. And I'll just throw a few more up there. All right. When it comes to procurement, the city's goal is to ensure fair, responsible, and timely procurement. What does it entail? Compliance, leveraging technology, providing transparency into processes to demonstrate they are indeed fair, responsible, and timely, and continually developing the team and improving results. As we've heard already, it's not just the technology, but it's the people involved. That said, this gives a sense of the complexity involved in the city's procurement. And I'm just going to put these up there. One more. There we go. This is the Mayor's Office of Contract Services, MOCS for short. It's the central office that supports the needs of over 200 agencies. As many purchase independently, there are 27 procurement systems, and their processes are governed by 238 regulations. As I mentioned earlier, an old law actually existed that dictated paper-based processes. Let me add, there is a large diversity of jobs here. Each agency is like its own individual company. You can easily make the comparison that the City of New York and its 200 agencies is similar to a large multinational corporation with offices and divisions all over the world. This illustrates not only the opportunity to improve efficiencies and provide cost savings, but the challenges involved. This is what complexity looks like. I'm not going to ask you to try to decipher it. I've seen Ryan Murray deliver this presentation. He's in New York, and he says, "Don't bother. You'll go blind trying to read this." But this gives you a sense of the complexity involved. This is a process diagram for a competitive sealed proposal in New York. It's mind-numbing. It's literally impossible. You basically need a deciphering tool like the Rosetta Stone. The process for a new vendor to register to bid on a contract took an average of 13 months, and that's literally a picture of 13 pounds of paperwork. This is obviously insanely inefficient, not environmentally friendly, and certainly doesn't build trust and confidence in your government. So last year, the City of New York embarked on a digital transformation of procurement. Don't forget, many suppliers are your constituents themselves. They called their project Passport, which would cover the full source-to-pay process and broke the effort into 3 phases, given the complexity involved. But to start off, they had to actually change the existing law dictating paper processes. They gained the support of the mayor, who pushed through the required legislative change. In parallel, they did an evaluation of technology providers. Given the desire to digitize the full S2P process, they focused on integrated suites. Other key factors they had to consider were supplier-friendly portals. Charging supplier fees, limiting activity, or having vendor-imposed requirements was a big no-no, given the importance of treating their suppliers, their constituents, fairly, and a desire to simplify the process. Agility. The city clearly had many unique requirements, and the dynamic legislative and regulatory environment meant that the rigid system that imposes standard private sector best practices without the ability to modify processes were not going to work. Ultimately, they selected Ivalua. They then proceeded with phase 1, tackling vendor management process, where they felt the pain was greatest. Getting this in order was also critical to later successfully addressing the ordering and payment ecosystem. Over the second half of 2017, they successfully rolled out their new vendor management passport system across all agencies. This, of course, involved the technical implementation, but also a significant people component. The Mox group had to explain the system to stakeholders at these agencies, convince them of its merits, and gain their buy-in. Collaboration 101. Of course, that meant that this process took several months and longer than it would to digitize the vendor management process at a typical private sector company. But the end result was worth it. The city is now working on phase 2 of their journey. From a technology perspective, one key was to ensure all information was captured and could be verified. This is an image of the new portal for vendors, which has been in place for several months. Clear, simple, and efficient. The simple screen and some additional ones, as vendors click through the process, replaced all 12 pounds of that paper that I showed you before. The entire process is now digital, and the time for completing registration and being approved has been cut by well over 90%. Information that previously had to be entered over and over and over again on different forms can now be entered once and automatically populated and shared every place it's needed. It's a great example of a win-win-win situation that I described initially. Suppliers save endless hours of frustration, information is more quickly gathered, and proposals can be more quickly processed for savings in employee time and budget. And the entire process is now transparent and easily auditable. It's also a great example that driving transformation is possible, even in the most complex public sector organizations facing inertia, bureaucracy, hundreds of agencies, and even prohibitive legislation. Now I'll take you north of the border. This is a federal agency, Canada, Shared Services Canada. It's centered in Ottawa. SSC is one of 2 organizations managing procurement for Canada's federal agencies. It's focused on IT, hardware and services for all federal government agencies in Canada. The equivalent would be like our GSA here in the United States. SSC is taking the lead in transforming procurement with an initiative they call Internal Services Transformation, or IST. Their goal is to modernize outdated processes and standardize across agencies. So there's many parallels to New York City, but at a federal level. They are also looking at transforming the complete source-to-pay process, but in their case, focused on P2P first. The effort is being driven by Richard Moores, who's responsible for business systems transformation at SSC. Richard spent the bulk of his career in the private sector procurement area and supply chain roles, and is adamant in bringing the same level of efficiency to Canada's federal agencies. There's that word again, efficiency. Shared Services Canada is adopting a new system called Procure to Pay, P2P, to electronically manage procurement-to-pay processes. SSC P2P is part of the department's Internal Services Transformation Initiative. SSC P2P will improve internal efficiencies, as work related to procurement will be routed automatically for PVR and finance employees rather than following the current manual process. Also, delegated managers will provide electronic approvals instead of signatures on paper. It is in line with the expectations of Blueprint 2020, a catalyst behind this transformation. Here's just a screenshot of what the portal, the SSC P2P portal encompasses. You see the management, suppliers, the staff, and the portal itself. And here's a snapshot of the P2P portal. Let me leave you with a few takeaways. The private sector looks at procurement platforms as a way to drive cost savings. The public sector is focused on transparency and regulatory compliance. But in the end, when efficiencies are created, transparency, compliance, and cost savings will all result from effectively moving to a digitized procurement platform. I'll leave you with this last sort of visual. Imagine this large Los Angeles region that we're now in today, and a central procurement hub sitting on top of LA County and all the cities inside it, then growing to include the other counties, San Bernardino, Orange counties around it. Imagine the transparency, the simplicity, the agility, the savings, the efficiency. As I said at the beginning, there are 4 reasons to improve and to change. Better manage public spending, automate processes, save a lot of trees and time in the process, increase transparency, and of course, increase efficiency. Thank you. I was going to, yield back time to the speaker.
Yeah, hi, I'm James Astron from LAPD Contracts, and I have a question, and this is kind of a nuts and bolts question. In terms of the cost, when you say cost savings, inefficiencies, first of all, how do you define that cost? How do you measure that? And also, this system, what was the cost for these municipalities to implement and also to maintain and manage?
So I don't know specifically your second question, but I can tell you the attitude or how these 2 government entities and others that we work with look at it. Clearly, any time that you are making an investment, your ROI is not going to be in year 1. And so taking a long-term perspective and a long-term vision, with New York City, we've been working with them for approximately 2 years now. Canada is about 5 years now. They're already seeing the ROI from the time and the human capital investment that was necessary before that isn't necessarily needed today, and so you can shift your focus and your opportunities elsewhere. So over time, that's where the ROI comes in. With any technological investment, you're never going to see it in year 1. You most likely won't see it in year 2. We see it, I can state more clearly because I'm more closely aligned with some of our private sector clients who have told me that they saw an ROI in year 1 moving from one platform from somebody else to our platform, even the time that it took to implement it and get it up and running, to being able to utilize it to its full efficiency because it provided tools or resources or opportunities that they didn't have before. So everybody, I think, measures it differently, and I think that goes to one of the subjects or comments that was made earlier, is that you need to have buy-in at the beginning. You need to understand what are our goals. I think that in talking with Ryan in New York over the last couple of weeks that I've seen him, and I think Michael will talk a little bit about it later because he worked with Ryan there, is knowing what you want to accomplish, having a game plan to get there, then selecting the process that you're going to implement over time. As I think I mentioned with New York, they could have taken an entire suite. They're implementing module after module after module because you can't get to step 2 until you've mastered step 1.